From the Cronkite studios in downtown Phoenix, this is Cronkite News.
Tonight on Cronkite News, snowbirds from Iowa hold their own caucus right here in Arizona.
And the effects of the coronavirus are being felt across the country. Hear from those who attended a Chinese New Year festival about how they're dealing with fear from others.
And find out why everyone's talking about J-Lo and Shakira's Super Bowl halftime show. Hint, it's not about the music.
Cronkite News starts now.
Good evening and welcome to Cronkite News on Arizona PBS. I'm Tyler Mannion.
And I'm Danielle Malkin. Thank you for joining us. Our top story today, Iowa caucuses happening right here in Arizona. For the first time ever, satellite Iowa caucuses will be taking place in 4 different locations across the state. Cronkite News reporter Marcela Bayeto shows us how local Arizona Democrats and Iowans are participating in this year's caucuses.
These 4 satellite caucuses in Arizona are part of a larger push by the Iowa Democratic Party to bring more access to Iowan voters who may live out of the state. Now, there's 96 of these satellite caucuses happening all across the nation and even around the entire world. In addition to the caucuses, I visited a local bar where Arizona Democrats will be gathering tonight to watch the Iowa caucus results unfold. Even though nearly 14,000 miles stand in between Iowa and Arizona, voters here are still getting involved in today's caucuses. At Cobalt Bar in Phoenix, Arizona Democrats will be watching the results of the Iowa caucus, says Maricopa County Democratic Party Chair Steven Slagocki.
We're going to watch to see the results of Iowa caucus, to see who's going to come out on top. It's been a year-long process to get to this point.
And in other parts of Arizona, out-of-state Iowans will be participating in 4 satellite caucuses. 3 of them are being held in Tucson, while 1 is taking place in Queen Creek. James Clark, a temporary director for one of the satellite caucuses that's taking place at a library in Tucson, says the event is needed in order to improve access to out-of-state voters.
The last time that we had caucuses, there was a big uproar about not being available to everyone. So people out of state thought that there should be, and also other people in nursing homes and other places where people couldn't get out to go to the caucus in person. Wanted a way to do that.
Since Arizona holds a primary in place of a caucus, here's some basic information on what the process looks like. First off, a caucus is where registered voters of a certain political party decide how the state will allocate their delegates for each party. A caucus has 2 rounds. In the first round, voters will choose the candidate they wish to support. Any candidate with less than 15% of the votes is considered non-viable. Anyone who voted for a non-viable candidate moves back to the center and votes in the second round. These voters have 2 options. They can either relocate to another established candidate, or they can agree to vote for one candidate to make them viable. The number of people in each candidate's corner is tallied and the appropriate number of delegates are assigned. Delegates will then represent voters at the party's national convention. Regardless of the distance between the 2 states, voters are staying involved, said Slagocki.
And that's pretty exciting that these people who are here are still going to be able to participate in the caucus.
Most of the caucuses are taking place at 6 p.m. tonight, while the one in Queen Creek started already earlier today at 3:30. Results are expected to come in later tonight. Live in the broadcast center, Marcela Bayeto, Cronkite News.
Closing arguments in President Donald Trump's impeachment trial wrapped up today. 4 hours of arguments provide one final chance to influence public opinion and set the record ahead of an expected Senate acquittal.
We've heard repeatedly throughout the past week and a half or so that the president is not above the law. And I'd like to focus in my last remarks here on an equally important principle, which is that the House of Representatives also.
To condone the president's obstruction would strike a death blow to the clause in the Constitution.
The Senate is expected to take their final vote on Wednesday.
Last week, another drug bust, considered one of the largest in the state of Arizona, netted 165,000 fentanyl pills worth $2.5 million. After investigations, officers stopped suspect Alexis Meza and found 122,000 fentanyl pills in his vehicle. After the traffic stop, officers went to his home, where they say they uncovered more fentanyl pills, 38 pounds of methamphetamine, a pound of marijuana, $5,000 in cash, 7 handguns, and 2 rifles. Meza was booked into jail on various drug charges.
While the health effects of the coronavirus in the U.S. have been relatively small so far, the virus is making its impact felt in other ways.
Cronkite News reporter Kara Harris explains the impact on our Asian Americans from Washington Bureau.
The nearest confirmed coronavirus case is more than 400 miles from Washington. But Emmy and Ella Zhang say they can feel the effects here.
People will make fun of it and tease it all the time. You'll see like someone coughs and it's like, oh, they have the coronavirus. Yeah.
But to the twins, who were performing at this weekend's Chinese New Year family celebration at the Smithsonian, it's no joke.
So my piano teacher, she teaches a lot of Asian American kids, and apparently one of the kids told her, you should ask all the kids who are Chinese American to stay at home.
Instances like this have even occurred on the University of Arizona's campus, where the Chinese New Year's festival was canceled in light of the coronavirus.
I'm here as an Asian American celebrating my culture, celebrating my new year, which is supposed to be so happy, and the fact that was shut down, that makes me very angry.
The decision to cancel the celebration in Tucson doesn't make much sense to former Phoenix resident Joshua Boraz.
Unless you have a lot of people coming in with the virus already, it's ridiculous to ever cancel a group gathering honoring some heritage that has nothing to do with a virus.
The outbreak has led to countries closing their borders and airlines restricting flights to and from China.
I have a friend here in the United States who's married to a Chinese fellow. She's 9 months pregnant and she's come back to the United States to give birth. They are not letting her husband in to witness the birth because all the flights from China have been canceled.
Emmy and Ella's dad, Bert Zhang, said he's seen a similar response to other diseases, but notes it's not helping fight such illnesses.
You think that only a certain type of person gets Ebola or a certain type of person gets coronavirus, you're really we are preventing ourselves from looking at it for what it is and taking steps to solve it.
He said it should be treated as a global health concern, and his girls agree.
The virus is going to affect us the same way. It doesn't make sense to just target certain groups because they happen to look like people where the outbreak was.
In light of the backlash, the people here say they were grateful to be part of the cultural celebration.
You see just a broad spectrum of colors and backgrounds, and it's just really wonderful. And this is exactly what we should be doing at a time like this.
In Washington, Kara Harris, Cronkite News.
In their announcement last week, University of Arizona officials said they were canceling the Chinese New Year festival because of travel and other concerns related to the coronavirus. Their statement said the action was regretful, but added that it's, quote, best to be careful at this stage.
The nation's annual State of the Union is tomorrow, and several Arizona politicians have announced who they're bringing with them to hear President Trump address the nation. Democrat Representative Greg Stanton is bringing Lynette Stant, the Arizona Education Foundation's Teacher of the Year. Republican Congresswoman Debbie Lesko Guest is bringing former Arizona Governor Jan Brewer. And Democrat Representative Tom O'Halloran is bringing Tara McCollum of Arizona Alliance Community Health Center.
Coming up next on Cronkite News on Arizona PBS. Dozens gather outside the Arizona State Capitol building to bring awareness to youth suicide.
And later find out while people are talking about J-Lo and Shakira's halftime performance.
The weather around Phoenix is just beautiful today. Let's take a look at the weather around the valley.
Thank you for joining us for the special edition of Cronkite News.
Here are the top stories that we're tracking today at noon.
Some of the best players for their program.
Cronkite Noticias Noticias is the Spanish-speaking division of Cronkite News, covering topics such as economics, education, sustainability, immigration, and border relations. Cronkite Noticias strives to serve the Spanish-speaking community in Arizona. Under the guidance of prominent Spanish-speaking professionals, students at the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism develop content for our broadcast partner, Univision, as well as on Facebook and Twitter. Explore Cronkite Noticias at cronkitenoticias.azpbs.org.
With wildfires, a scarcity of water, and other environmental issues facing the Earth today, it's critical to stay up to date with local impacts of a changing climate. That's why we created Elemental, covering sustainability, a multimedia collaboration between public television and radio stations. From climate change to water conservation to renewable energy and much more, Elemental covers the latest in sustainability news. Find our stories on our website, elementalreports.com.
Arizona hosted its first rally to prevent suicide. Community members shared stories about how mental health and suicide have impacted their lives. Cronkite News reporter Madison Atkinson explains why they're calling for suicide prevention to be a priority in the state.
Dozens of people gathered outside Arizona's state capitol to raise awareness for suicide prevention. On average, one person dies by suicide every 7 hours in Arizona, according to the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention.
To find a family in Arizona that hasn't been touched in some way by suicide, an easy way to become more involved is to seek out a training opportunity. There are suicide prevention training opportunities being offered across the state. State agencies are offering them, churches are offering them.
Child suicide increased 32% from 2016 to 2017. 68% of those deaths occurred in children 15 to 17 years old, according to the Arizona Child Fatality Review Report. At the state capitol, lawmakers are working to pass Jake's Law. Jake's mother and father spoke during the rally to educate and support the bill.
Essentially making sure that behavioral health is being treated equally with physical health by the insurance company. It was named in honor of our son Jake, who was lost to suicide January 11th, 2016. So we just want to make sure no other family has to go through what we did.
Those at the rally want people to know mental health is just as important as physical health for children.
I think the public needs to, as the speakers were just saying, don't stigmatize this. Don't hope it will go away. It is an illness, every bit as much as a physical ailment.
In Phoenix, Madison Atkinson, Cronkite News.
If you are struggling with thoughts of suicide, you can call 1-800-273-TALK, or you can text CONNECT to 741-741.
A Navajo code talker has passed away at the age of 96. Joe Vanderveer passed away on Friday in New Mexico. Vanderveer enlisted in the Marines during World War II. During this time, the United States military used the Navajo language to communicate. Vanderveer and his wife Bessie were married for 73 years. Bessie passed away this fall. As opinions continue to come in regarding last night's Super Bowl halftime show featuring Latin superstars Jennifer Lopez and Shakira, another talking point has been their subtle use of imagery during their performance addressing topics such as immigration and Hispanic cultural identity. Cronkite News reporter Frankie McClister breaks it down. Frankie?
Both artists are taking this opportunity, the biggest stage in American sports, to not only show their musical talents, but also letting millions of viewers see them making a political statement, well, in their own way. From the very beginning, both J-Lo and Shakira filled the stage Sunday night at Hard Rock Stadium in Miami with electricity, music, dancing, singing, and a dash of politics.
Well, I think it was really interesting that both, especially Shakira, was singing in Spanish. So she sang in Spanish, and I think that really that was a message that, Latinos are an important component here, and many of us speak Spanish, and many of us speak English, so we can both at the same time. And then, of course, we had Jennifer Lopez, who represents more like the Puerto Rican diaspora, and she displayed the Puerto Rican flag as a symbol, I think, to assert that Puerto Ricans are actually, citizens of the United States, but that, that we haven't been treated fairly by the Correa administration.
Lopez, who is of Puerto Rican descent, also featured her daughter Emmy singing Born in the USA as she came out of what looked like a cage, some interpreting this as a veiled reference against President Trump's family separation immigration policy.
So I think they're speaking about the fact that we have so many children, especially coming from Mexico, Central America, who are in detention centers in some, of these facilities along the U.S.-Mexico border.
And Shakira, who is of Colombian and Lebanese descent, also making her own statements, using Colombian folkloric dancing and using traditional Middle Eastern symbols during her performance.
I mean, some would argue they were opportunists, right? And then others would argue it was an opportunity.
I think there was a statement to make, that this is the largest minority population or growing population here in the United States, and I think it really deserves a lot of attention.
Calling this show Performance with a Purpose, while others argue it was not the time or the place. What is clear is that both artists made an impression among the millions of viewers. In the studio, Frankie McLister, Cronkite News.
President Trump's administration has been promoting uranium production and sales in the United States.
Some groups are on board with this push, but others are not, and they are working to keep uranium mining out of the Grand Canyon area. Details when we come back.
By the year 2050, there will be more plastic in the ocean than fish. Before Professor Halden, I had an insane amount of passion, but I almost felt helpless because I didn't know how to use it. Professor Halden gave me a chance to make a difference. Being at a place like ASU allows you to take these big leaps. Ultimately, the biggest problems in the world cannot be solved alone.
As journalists at Cronkite News, we report on stories that matter to you by focusing on the local impact. We dig deeper and work tirelessly to keep you informed.
Live in Wickerburg.
Live in Los Angeles. In Cleveland.
In Washington. In Louisville.
From Jerusalem.
Live in Philadelphia. From around the world to right here in Phoenix.
At Cronkite News, we report the facts and stick to the truth.
We use uranium to produce weapons and to keep the 96 nuclear reactors in the United States operating, including right here in Arizona. But most of that uranium comes from overseas, something the Trump administration wants to change. Cronkite News reporter Melanie Porter visits a uranium mine near the Grand Canyon to find out what exactly is at stake.
The Canyon Mine is located about 15 miles outside Grand Canyon National Park. Curtis Moore is with Energy Fuel, which is the company that owns the mine.
If I thought that there was even the remotest chance that we would be harming the Grand Canyon, I couldn't work for this company.
Since the mine opened in 1986, it hasn't produced any uranium. Moore says he's waiting for the price of uranium to go up.
The price isn't quite there. It's close. I mean, Canyon Mine is probably the lowest cost uranium mine in the United States.
As of December 2019, the price of uranium was just over $25 a pound, which isn't profitable. There's a lot of concern about the environmental repercussions, but Moore says the mine isn't causing any harm.
And today, we are heavily regulated by an array of state and federal agencies. They keep a real close eye on what we're doing.
This mine was built decades ago, and initially people thought it would be very successful. In reality, Canyon Mine has the potential to cause problems for the entire ecosystem.
You think when you turn on your tap, that's the best water resource you got. No.
Tanakongva argues that if enough uranium leaks into the Colorado River, it could affect all who depend on the river, which is a lot of Arizona.
Eventually, if we continue with the mining, it has a possibility of leaking into the valuable water resources that we have.
The U.S. House passed legislation late last fall that would permanently ban uranium mining on 1 million acres around the Grand Canyon, but Canyon Mine would still be allowed to operate. While this plays out on Capitol Hill, environmentalists argue that along with water danger, the mine site disrupts nature.
That water is now contaminated. The birds that we see flying around here are adapting to this pond of water to the point where they're habituated. In some ways, this is a ticking time bomb.
But what is more important? Is it life or is it money? That would be the question, and I believe the position of Hopi will be that we're going to make a firm stance as far as banning uranium, at least in our backyard.
Tanakongva, as well as Grand Canyon Trust, believe that the risk is far greater than the reward when it comes to mining uranium in this area. At the Grand Canyon, Melanie Porter, Cronkite News.
The Nuclear Fuel Group was initially supposed to make recommendations in late last fall, but they still have not proposed any new recommendations. We had a very kind of chilly start to our Monday morning, Tyler. I definitely grabbed my second jacket on the way out the house, I will admit.
No, me too, but the past weekend was absolutely beautiful, and now we're going to send you over to Millard Thomas at the Weather Center to give you what's coming up this week in weather. Millard, what you got?
Yeah, I suggest leaving those jackets on because we might see some freezing temperatures tonight. But as you guys start to get off work, you're going to see those temperatures stay about 58 degrees. Then they're going to climb all the way to 49 as we head into the 10 o'clock hour. Then if you guys take a look at the map right now, some lows tonight, we might get below freezing tonight. So you're going to want to protect your 4 Ps, your pets, plants, pipe, and people. If you look in down east Arizona, we're going to have 29 degrees out in Mesa, which is pretty low for this time of the year. And then with the low temperatures, we're going to have some high gust of winds. Eastern Arizona saw some gust of winds hit as high as 40 miles per hour today. And then over the next 24 hours, western Arizona might see mid-20s for miles per hour. But don't worry, by Wednesday afternoon, those wind speeds are going to start to calm down. Then if we take a look at your next 3 days, you're going to see 55 on Tuesday, and those temperatures are going to climb all the way to 61 on Thursday. As we head into the weekend, we're going to see 69 on Friday, and then temperatures are going to climb to the mid-70s over the weekend. 75 on Saturday with 76 on Sunday. Then with the new week, we're going to have temperatures sitting in the mid-60s. Millard Thomas from the Cronkite News Weather Center.
The Phoenix Open is all wrapped up, the winner announced, and everyone is pretty much headed home from Arizona.
Yeah, and the Thunderbirds are the group that puts it on each and every year. Ahead on Cronkite News, how they hope their efforts to help veterans last longer than just the tournament.
With wildfires, a scarcity of water, and other environmental issues facing the Earth today, it's critical to stay up to date with local impacts of a changing climate. That's why we created Elemental, Covering Sustainability, a multimedia collaboration between public television and radio stations. From climate change to water conservation to renewable energy and much more, Elemental covers the latest in sustainability news. Find our stories on our website, elementalreports.com.
By the year 2050, there will be more plastic in the ocean than fish. Before Professor Halden, I had an insane amount of passion, but I almost felt helpless because I didn't know how to use it. Professor Halden gave me a chance to make a difference. Being at a place like ASU allows you to take these big leaps. Ultimately, the biggest problems in the world cannot be solved alone.
Welcome to another edition of Cronkite Sports Now. I'm Taylor Rocha. Let's talk sports.
For the latest on local sports and beyond, we've got you covered.
Let's do this thing.
We challenge reporters to go beyond, a game story. We want stories with depth.
It's just a crucial step from the college experience into the professional experience while you're still in school.
At Cronkite Sports Now, watch the journalists of tomorrow cover sports today.
The Phoenix Open is known for the 16th hole and those very excited and wild crowds.
This weekend, fans not only enjoyed the golf, but they were also given the opportunity to interact with a restored Huey gunship that flew in the Vietnam War.
So excited just to be able to see it, touch it, and of course we let them get in it and sit in the pilot's seat, sit in the gunner's seat, get a reference of what it would be like to actually be in one of these and fly it.
The helicopter showing provided civilians a chance to garner a greater understanding of what vets went through during the war. The helicopter was just part of the Phoenix Open's nod to the military. The Patriots outpost on the 18th green offered veterans free food and drinks to go along with the free admission to the golf tournament.
Cronkite News is proud to be the news division of Arizona PBS.
Here's what's coming up on Arizona Horizon and PBS NewsHour.
On the next Arizona Horizon, we'll check out the best of international photojournalism on display at the World Press Photo Exhibition in downtown Phoenix. It's on the next Arizona Horizon.
I'm Judy Woodruff. On the next NewsHour, we are on the ground for the official start of the 2020 presidential primary season as Iowa's Democratic caucus goers make their choice. That's Monday on the PBS NewsHour.
That's it for Cronkite News tonight. Thanks for joining us.
For top Arizona stories anytime, go to cronkitenews.azpbs.org. Have a great evening.
On the go. At Cronkite News, we work hard to report the facts and keep you updated, whether we're on set or on the scene.
Taking it from the studio to the field. So I'm here in South Phoenix.
In Phoenix, we're just a click away. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, or find us online at cronkitenews.azpbs.org.
Cronkite Noticias is the Spanish-speaking division of Cronkite News, covering topics such as economics, education, sustainability, immigration, and border relations. Cronkite Noticias strives to serve the Spanish-speaking community in Arizona. Under the guidance of prominent Spanish-speaking professionals, students at the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism develop content for our broadcast partner, Univision, as well as on Facebook and Twitter. Explore Cronkite Noticias at cronkitenoticias.azpbs.org.